for your quiz next week is you'll identify a blood cell when you see it on a slide. In addition, do the stuff that's listed in your packet. You have to tell me how many there are, what their job is. So you're going to memorize a bunch of stuff in your packet in addition to looking at it. You want to go to JDoc and make sure you read what this guy is saying, or girl, because they actually walk you through really easily what the different blood slides are doing and all that. So I'm just going to walk you through some slides at random from JDoc. And then we'll see if we can discern what I'm staring at. Let me see if I know what I want to do. There you go. Here's the most classic view you'll see in neuroscope come next week for your exam. So you're going to look at that and say, Mr. Christie, what do I see? First thing you're going to identify are these. Red blood cells are erythrocytes, whatever. Then you identify these. Platelets, those are the easy ones. Then you got the white blood cells you have to identify further. So white blood cells, you want to remember, never let monkeys eat bananas. That's the order. So neutrophils most common, lymphocyte, monocyte, eocyte, basophil. So if in doubt, it's going to be a never or let. Those are over half of the cells. So if you just remember the order, you look, well, just statistics say it should be a neutrophil in there somewhere. So neutrophils look like this. How would you identify? How would you say? What do you see there?
Multiple nucleus.
Yeah, multi-lobe nucleus. It can be 2, can be 3, can be more, but they have this lots of little lobes, and they're considered a granulocyte, even though you can't see the granules per se. They should be spotted, and that's why they have an ending of "phil." If they say "phil," they have speckles. If they say "cyte," they don't. So granulocytes are the phils. Agranulocytes are the cytes. So this is a neutrophil. You can look carefully, there's speckles in the cytoplasm of the cell. They're very faint, but they're speckly. They're granulocyte, and those are neutrophils. This one is not a neutrophil. That is a let. Lymphocyte, that's the let.
Maybe that's
it's a
center
cell,
one.
it's a site, so it doesn't have speckles. The nucleus is basically the whole cell. You don't see much cytoplasm. So the trick on a lymphocyte is just a dark purple circle. Okay? Yep.
Maybe that's center one.
I have no idea how
That's
to
great.
work.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, no? Makes sense? So, phosphorus slide,
Perfect,
reds,
thanks.
platelets, lymphocytes, neutrophils. Doing okay? So you're going to look at the nucleus, you're going to look at the speckling, kind of the overall shape. Problem is they vary a lot, so you have to sort of use all your instincts.
What about the other fills?
The other fills. Let's try those. Let's go back to this picture. Okay, let's do this guy in the upper right. Neutrophil. This one down here.
Neutrophils.
Exactly the same. This one. The lymphocyte. Those are the most common ones. Neutrophils, multi-lobe nucleus. Maybe you see speckles. Lymphocytes, all going to be dark. Very little cytoplasm. So those are that's the 2 most common ones. So if you keep claiming you see a basophil, I'm going to laugh because you don't. Let's keep going. So, it turns on. Name the white blood cells you see there. Start up there. Lymphocyte again. Neutrophil. Neutrophil. Okay, that's on an exam. Just say neutrophil lymphocyte. You might be like a femur for blood. Right? All right. This one is not a neutrophil or a lymphocyte.
That looks like a monocyte.
That's a monocyte. This is actually one of the harder ones to name because they vary a lot in their size and shape. Your book will say they're always bigger than the reds. That's normally true, but not always. So don't use size as the sole criterion. So what you want to do is look at the nucleus versus the cytoplasm. Normally the nucleus in a monocyte is about half-ish. So you can see there's a lot more cytoplasm than lymphocyte. It usually is a horseshoe or a kidney bean, not always. But you look at that and say, that doesn't look like a lymphocyte, and it doesn't look like a neutrophil. Therefore, it's going to be a monocyte, the 3rd most common. Make sense? So personally, these ones are always hard because they vary a lot more than the other ones do. They look for size, along with nucleus, along with no speckles, along with cytoplasm size. That's a monocyte.
So it fills up less of the cytoplasm than the lymphocyte.
Right. So I'm not an artist. I know that.
You see more of the cytoplasm.
So a lymphocyte normally, you'll see all a dark circle and a little sliver, like a little moon of cytoplasm. That's the lymphocyte. In the monocyte, you'll sort of see, you'll see more cytoplasm with the nucleus. The nucleus may be bigger than the lymphocyte, but you'll see that it's not all the cell that you see, traditionally. But That's one clue. So let's try another one. Let's go. Upper left, name it. Monocyte. Middle one, name it. Monocyte. In fact, he's oozing over there. But again, bigger than those, normally kind of kidney bean, horseshoe-shaped nucleus that takes about half-ish of the cell. Normally, this one's a little different, but again, you get the gist. That's not a lymph, it's not a neutrophil. No speckles. Right, so use all the clues. Let's talk about speckles. Let's find a speckledy one. Anyone find a granulocyte for me on this picture? Right here. This is an eosinophil. It's going to be, that's granular, lots of speckles all over. Normally these are reddish, not always, so don't always say the red one. Normally they are. And if you can look at the nucleus, it has this weird sort of figure S, bilobed, kind of ampersand sort of shape. But it's going to be speckled enough that you'll notice it. You'll see the dots. Okay. So up here is also a granulocyte. Who's that one up there? That's a neutrophil. So we're going to fill. But this one you can see has a lot less speckles. This one has a lot more speckles. But they're both fills because they're both granulocytes. Right? He's the second to most rare. JDoc actually doesn't have a basophil at all. Shows you how rare they are. I have to go someplace different to get you a basophil. So give me a second here to go somewhere else and get you a basophil. I'm going to go to Boston University and use their website for a second. Where's blood? Oh, there's blood. What's blood on here? Blood. All right. So this is using Boston. Let's go through these are all the granulocytes. I can tell they're speckled. Let's do Mr. Easy down here. Neutrophil. This one, that's neutrophil. Even though it's not red, you can see the speckles in the nucleus. Look at that beast up there. That's a basophil. They're very, very speckled. In fact, they're so speckled, you can't see anything but speckles. Right? So you won't see a nucleus. There's one in there. But it's going to be just ink blob kind of shape. Very distinctively dark speckles. That's the most rare, less than 1%. Hint, hint. In my years of doing this, it's very hard for me to find one of those on a slide if I don't want to spend 3 hours looking for it. So the chance of me finding one on a slide and putting it on your test is based upon how much time I want to be here, which is not as much as you think. So I rarely put basophils on a slide. It just takes me an hour to find one, unless I'm lucky. The chances are neutrophils, lymphocytes, monocytes, those I can find in 2 seconds. Eosinophils take me about 20 minutes. That one takes me longer. Just because it's the most rare, it's unlikely I'm going to see it on a slide. Right? You should still know it. Just realize, don't keep saying basophil on your exam. Probably not the one I found.
So
Go for it.
that one is a neutrophil, but it looks oddly like in the sin of the other one.
This one?
Is it because the nucleus isn't attached that it's not? No, yeah, no, the other one.
This one?
Yeah.
It's more granular. You can see it's more speckled than this one. And the nucleus, it's hard to see because of speckles, but it makes kind of 2 lobes shifted. A neutrophil usually has about 3, kind of like a clover leaf.
Oh, so that is an eosinophil.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay,
This
that's
is
what I would have
neutrophil.
figured.
This is eosinophil.
Okay,
This stuff.
yeah.
So the neutrophil has more than 2 lobes?
Normally more than 2. It usually is 3, but it doesn't have to be 3. But you're going to notice it looks more like a... yeah, it just looks distinctly different. Hard to say.
So does the eosinophil always have 2?
Yes, it should have 2 kind of shifted like that. Yes?
Okay, without sounding like a complete smartass,
Yeah.
what is the importance of knowing the distinction between these different
So
cells?
someday, when you work as a pathologist in a hospital, you can tell what the infection people have. If you have worms, your eosinophil count goes up, because that's what happens when you have worms. So if you, not that you're ever going to do this, but if you look at a slide and see eosinophils are up, you can say the patient has worms.
Okay, great.
If the basophils are up, you have an allergy. So knowing the different cells when you see them tells you what's wrong with the person's immune system.
Wouldn't that include also smartass?
Yeah.
Well, I didn't want to come
Yeah.
across as being totally rude.
Right. And also because PCC is thou shalt know. That's also why you're learning this. But there is the more you know the blood cells, easier it is to diagnose someone just from the blood count. You can say eosinophils are up, you got some parasite. You went to South America for your honeymoon. Yeah. Make sense? So thou shalt know in blood size. So look for nucleus, look for coloring, speckles, look for shape. Practice, practice, practice. Take a picture of that poster wherever it went with your phone. It's a good plan. So let's look at the heart for a little bit. Let us do that. It's the where the white blood cells live in a test tube. It looks puffy.
What is centrifuge?
Yes. Give me a second to find my sheet here.
White blood cells and plasma.
Yes. Okay, so for the heart lab, you know, it's going to be based on models. One of the problems with the models is they're all slightly different. So you're stuck doing that classic learn them all. I'm just going to walk through some of the things on the list, not maybe everything. The biggest thing you want to do to be successful with the heart is figure out right from left. Because if you did it wrong, every answer will be wrong. Because you'll be memorizing what's on the right, and pretty soon you're telling me it's a bicuspid when it's a tricuspid, and then I'm just laughing as I'm taking points away. So, I know, I cry, but okay. So what you want to do is visualize this picture, and this is what a normal heart looks like in a patient. So this patient's right, patient's left. So a couple little tricks, it varies. The plumbing comes out the top. If you look at the apex, which is the A, it tends to point kind of a little to the left, not always. You want to look at these blood vessels, how they cross like this and down that. So if you visualize that in your head, hopefully you'll always get the right and the left correct. So the apex tends to point to the left. You tend to have a red thing this way, a red thing this way. The aorta kind of goes up and back. But try to figure that out, because if you get it wrong, you're doomed. But let's go through it. Pretend you got this right. Let's find some things. I said apex was here. Where's the base?
The base is
The base is the top. It seems backwards, but this is a triangle. The base is the flat apex. The base is the top of the heart.
So like where the veins are and
Yeah, so
arteries are
base,
coming
if I
out?
were pointing up here, you could say that's all the base, where the
Okay.
plumbing is at the top.
Okay.
It's not as much a thing as a place. Okay, so tell me what you call the sac around your heart. Pericardium, right? Around my heart. Peri, around, cardium. So the visceral would be where? On the heart. Remember, visceral means on the organ. The parietal would be on your what?
What's that?
The cavity.
Cavity.
The chest, right? So visceral is always on the organ. Parietal is always on the cavity. So you have those two serous membranes. From 231 you're supposed to know. And what's between the visceral and parietal? What lives in that little space? Fluid, serous fluid. Very good. Go back to 231 and review that again. What do you call the muscle of a heart?
Myocardium.
Myocardium. Very good. So the sac it's in is the pericardium, the muscle is the myocardium. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start cutting into our heart. So right's on your left. Right, so let's cut in. Cobble. Will work.
Muscle.
Yay! Roman numeral 1. Tell me what room that is.
Atrium.
Which one?
Right.
Right atrium. This is patient's right upper room. Roman numeral 3. Tell me what it is. Right ventricle. Roman numeral 4. Left ventricle. And you can't see the other one. It's back in there. But again, get your right and left straight. So, if this is the right atrium, that's the right ventricle. Number 3 is a vowel. Which one? Tricuspid. You try before you buy. Number 6 is the bicuspid. E. What got pulmonary? Because it's coming off my right side into number 4. What tube is number 4? Pulmonary arteries, leaving my right side going to my lungs. You can't see the veins, so the pulmonary veins would be going the other side. Let's do number 7. Aorta. Let's do number 1.
Vena cava?
Vena cava would be good, or superior to be formal because it's on the upper part. So again, think about the stuff you did in lecture. Now let's name some more things down here. You're going to name these little H's, these little long stringy things that you mentioned in lecture. Chordae teninae, literally heartstrings. Now the trick is, if you look where I is pointing, that's where the chord's attached to your heart. What do you call the things the chords are stuck to in the heart? Papillary what? Muscles. So the valves are the flaps, the white things. The cords are chordae teninae, and the bumps where the cords attach are the papillary muscles. So they're not all the same thing. They're all dealing with the same work.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure. So, for example, 3, tricuspid valve. H, chordae tendineae, the strings. And I is the papillary muscle where the string is glued into your heart. So those papillary muscles are the glue that hold the strings in.
Can you point to the papillary muscles?
I can't, it's hard to see in the picture, but I'm going to say I. You follow the strings down. Bumps. Now, there's some more language. If you look in the ventricles, all that folded, bumpy looking myocardium has a name. What do you call the netted meat of the ventricle?
Endocardium?
No?
Pectinate?
Trabeculae carne. If you go above your chordae tendineae, trabecula means kind of netted, carne,
Meat.
meat. Literally, Roman, netted meat. So the bumps in your ventricle, all of them, are trabeculae carne. There's a different word for the bumps in your atrium. Atrium is sort of like near your chest.
Pectinate.
Pectinate muscles. So classic question on a quiz. Pectinate muscles are in your atria. Papillary muscles are in the ventricle, but the trabeculae carne are in the ventricle, the bumps, not the muscles. That all make perfect clear? Right. Okay. Pectinate muscles are in your atria. Papillary muscles are in your ventricle. And trabeculae carne is all the bumps in the ventricles.
Even the
Yes,
papillary.
even the papillaries would be part of the trabeculae carne. That should be above chordae tendineae.
On 25 in the middle.
Yeah, it should be above the.
Found it.
It,
Trabecular carne is in the ventricles and the atria,
no, pectinate's in the atria, trabeculae carne is the ventricles.
and it's just the
The,
folds
yeah,
in
the
the
bumpies,
layers.
the folds.
So the chordae tendineae, is the same name for both sides
Yes.
of the.
Arching. Okay, so be careful of those muscle words because pectinate, papillary, they're similar, but not the same. So we got our valves, we got our heartstrings and our bumps. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to change models slightly, just because you hate me so. Go back to this one. All right, so these models are a little more difficult to learn because there's so much more going on with them. But let's see if we can review what you learned and figure that out. So, number 26, I'm going to say is a room or chamber. What chamber would it be? Right atrium. Number 23 is a chamber there. That would be right ventricle. So tell me 61. Tell me 83.
Tendineae chordae.
And tell me 68. That's the bump.
Papillary muscle.
Papillary muscle. That's just what we went through. So there's just a little different view. Alright? But what we're going to do now on these ones is we're going to focus on the stuff on the outside of the heart now, which are your coronary arteries and veins. So I'm going to go back to the outside. It's kind of off to the side slightly. Yeah. Okay, so the blood vessels on the outside of the heart are called your coronaries. They feed the heart. So the trick is, again, you have to know right from left. If you go to page 26, they list all these coronary arteries. And here's where the life gets exciting. We didn't really have time to talk about this in lecture. But you remember your circle of Bruce Willis in your brain? For that thing? Why was it a circle?
Because if you cut off one, you could still get to
Really?
the other.
Your heart does the same thing. These blood vessels all connect to each other. They're all one big ring. We just name them differently everywhere you're looking. So if you're on a model with your finger, they'll end up being in the same place more than one way. But they're named differently. So the trick is to realize most of these things are all the same tube. Just name the different regions you're at. So if I point to 37, that's a blood vessel on the left side of my heart. What would you call a blood vessel on the outside of the left side of my heart? That's my left coronary artery that comes out of my left side. Okay? If there's a left coronary, that tells you there should be a what? Let's see if that's true. Indeed, there it is. That's coming out on the right side on the surface of my heart. That's my right coronary. All right? Now, if you look at the right coronary, if you come down here, you'll notice it starts to go kind of under my heart. So if you look right here, right, it starts to curve under,
Posterior.
and then it'll come back up over here. That's the same blood vessel all the way around. But we give it different names just to mess up your life. Okay. So, let's go back to this one. This was my left coronary artery. You notice it splits here. And part of it goes around the back of the heart and would come back around over here. It's going to make a circle under your heart. Can anyone look on your list and find something that says circular? Circumflex. So the right and the left basically circumflex and go under the heart. It's easier to see when you're looking at the model than not. Then, part of it goes down the front of your heart. How would you say down the front of your heart? Thank you. Anterior interventricular artery. In front, between my ventricles, artery. That's right here. The anterior interventricular. It goes between my ventricles in the front. So your right becomes the anterior interventricular and also becomes the circumflex, like right there on the picture. Circumflex is where the right branches behind the heart. There's the left branches behind the heart, and there's the anterior interventricular line. So, and then it would come around the other side. So now we're going to name some sulcuses thingy bobbers. Your anterior interventricular is actually in a little groove. How do you say groove in the brain? So what do you call that groove there where it's living? Yes, they match the same. So the artery and the sulcus are named the same. So the anterior interventricular artery is living inside the anterior interventricular sulcus or groove.
So that yellow part is.
The yellow part. On the model, it doesn't always look like a groove, but it is.
Why does it look like that? Why does it
Because it is. Your heart's bathed in fat. Your heart loves fat.
Push it and takes it.
As long as it's
That
not
makes
in
less
the
energy.
artery.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Okay, so let's do this one. Let's go back to this one here. Back to the other side. Okay. Depending on the model you're on, it varies somewhat. On this model, this red one right where my mouse is, I believe is interpreted as being the marginal because it's on the edge. On the other models, it's actually further down. So I'm just going to make a blanket statement. If one of them's over here on the right side, that's going to be the marginal. But it should be on the edge of the heart, so margin of the heart. That's the marginal artery. So I have my right coronary becoming my circumflex with my marginal going down the side. Make sense? Here's the problem. The veins are named differently. They're named cardiac, not coronary. So you have coronary arteries and a cardiac vein. And luckily for you, there's only one vein you have to know, really, of any great importance. We turn the heart around. Look at number 43. That looks like a very big vein, does it not? How would you say big vein of the heart?
The great cardiac.
The great cardiac vein. It comes across your heart and drains that blood in here. Just before it goes in your vena cava, there's a big opening there. How would you say opening in the heart if you were the coronary sinus? Right? So the cardiac vein, that's a coronary artery. Same meaning, different.
Which one was the coronary sinus?
Great cardiac vein,
Big
coronary
blue.
sinus.
The big blue.
The great cardiac vein goes to the coronary sinus?
Yes, that's where it drains in your vena cava. They're all basically one part.
Big blue. Big blue vein.
So just be careful because it's C and C, but cardiac for the vein. I will dock you wrong if you put coronary vein or cardiac artery. That's not what it is. Okay, so be careful on the coronary. Spend some time tracing them out with your finger that they connect. So you got to be looking at the different parts. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much inside the heart where you know it to be. All right, I think. Oh, let me point out one little thing on the inside of the heart. That will confuse you no end. Because it depends on the model you have, what it says. Look at K on this picture. What is that? I mean, where is it? What is that?
Is it a valve?
Let's find out.
It's the thing that grows over from a baby,
Yes.
from an infant, or a
Right.
fetus.
So, inside your atrium, there's a hole when you're a baby between the right and left that closes. So when it closes, it makes a depression that's oval. They're in Latin. So that's your fossa ovalis. If you were a baby, it'd be the foramen ovale, because it's a hole when you're a baby. The problem is on every model, they're showing that differently. Some will be high, some will be low. Some will be oval, some will be a circle. So you don't want to memorize oval up here, because one of the models has it as a circle. Just find something on the inside wall that should look vaguely circular. And that would be
It's a
the
depression
fossa
kind of-
ovalis.
Is it between, can you say there's between H and FA node?
It's yeah, it is, but it's between the right and left atrium, actually. It's between the interatrial wall.
That's
Okay.
huge. No way, that's a.
Yeah. That's the sinus. And the sinus comes into right next to it, so you might see a sinus too. So let me show you why this can be complex. Let me go back to this one, this one, this one.
Yeah, because this goes here. Yeah, it's that.
Okay, so look at this one. My last little blurb here. Okay, so the fossa ovalis on this model is 58. It's like a half oval. These represent the blood vessels or the sinus. So you got to be careful. On this one, you think it should be higher, but it's that one. So every model has a different ovalis. Pay some attention to each model and find that out. Okay? Otherwise, the rest of the stuff I think you can figure out vaguely on your own. But I'm sure you can, in fact. So I'm going to be quiet so you get the rest of your lab to study and do your things. But do blood slides, heart models, blood typing, all that's next week. All right.
Right.
Ooh, and you have...
What else do you need? At the start of the show. Water, a mint.
Could you grab me that heart that's on the stand over there, little heart?
No.
So we have our pericardium around my heart, parietal. Visceral will be on the heart itself. We have the right and left, the apex at the base. And I'm going to just do the outside first. So we have our right coronary artery here, it's on the right side. Left coronary artery comes out here. And then the right and the left will become circumflex. Basically underneath, circumflex.
Just be a little quieter so this comes through.
Yeah, which one?
Then I have the marginal, I'm going to call this one.
Yeah, especially down.
The anterior interventricular artery. And then the blue becomes the cardiac vein. So I have my great cardiac vein coming around. It's going to meet my middle cardiac vein here at the coronary sinus here, which will then come into my right atrium here. That's my coronary sinus where that drains, right next to the fossa ovalis. So I have my right atrium with my superior inferior vena cava. My tricuspid valve puts the blood into my right ventricle. Right ventricle. I have my chordae tendineae, the papillary muscles at their base. All of this is trabecular carne. All of this is pectinate muscle. The right ventricle puts it through the pulmonary valve to here, into my pulmonary artery, goes to my lungs, and it comes back on my pulmonary veins, which are these. They put it into my left atrium, which goes through my bicuspid valve, or mitral valve, into my left ventricle, which goes through my aortic valve, into my aorta. The aorta then sends it to my body, and back to the vena cava. On my aorta, I'm supposed to know this one, the first branch is your brachiocephalic, which would go over to my right side. I have a ligamentum arteriosum, which used to be the ductus arteriosus in fetal development, which is now a ligament, that sort of pairs up with the fossa ovalis. I have walls. I have an interventricular septum, or wall between the ventricles, here, and it's hard to see, but I have an interatrial septum between the right and left atria. I go back to my front. I have, these are the auricles, which are the little dog ears, we call them, on the atria. cervical oracle. Then we have some grooves. We have the anterior interventricular sulcus. We have the right and left coronary sulcus. And then there should be, am I missing one? No, I think that's it. Big deal.
And then coronary arteries and
Yeah, so right and left coronary arteries would be these parts. Circumflex would be from here around. Anterior interventricular artery will be there, marginal will be there.
and then for the veins.
So great cardiac veins, the main one. Then the middle,
Because I think that essentially this is one H.
the middle comes up here, right here. And that's the sinus is where they basically meet. Working on this next one. I think that is all. I'm going to do the same basic stuff on this model. Sorry. So right, left. So I get the same thing. Right coronary here, left coronary here, and there. To anterior interventricular, and the circumflex, which goes around. The blue is the great cardiac vein, middle cardiac vein at the sinus. Then I have my right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium, left ventricle. On this model, this is where it gets weird. That's the sinus there. So that's the foramen ovale or fossa ovalis there. It just looks different. Then it's missing a valve. There would have been a valve here, tricuspid. Pulmonary is there, pulmonary artery. The bicuspid's missing. It's a great heart. You're missing all your valves. And then aortic would be there. It's the aorta with brachiocephalic first. There's the ligamentum arteriosum. Here's the myocardium, which is the meat. Here's the interventricular septum there. And the interatrial septum back there. Apex. Here. Let me see if I'm missing anything. That's about all you can see on that one. It used to be better with the valves. Okay, doesn't fit. Oh yeah, so trabeculae carnae would be in the ventricles. Pectinate muscles would be in the atria. Let's go to that one over there. Same exact model. On this one though, you can actually see the valves. So you have your tricuspid on the right, bicuspid on the left, aortic is on the left, pulmonary is shown here on the right. Interventricular septum, chordae tendineae, papillary muscles at their base. You really can't see pectinate muscles very well. Trabecular carnae not very well. It's pretty much the same thing. On the outside, it's slightly different. You have your right coronary looks a little different than this one. It's still got the right coronary, anterior interventricular. The left one is buried in there. The circumflex is buried behind that. So you get all the way over here. Middle cardiac, great cardiac, coronary. Behold.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.